Welcome to the Glow Code podcast. My name is Kate Dove and I'm your host. The Glow Code podcast is a collection of bite-sized conversations designed to help you step into your main character energy, glow up, and connect with your femininity. This podcast is for the woman who wants to radiate her beauty from the inside out and move through the world with authenticity. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Glow Code podcast. We are past eclipse season and I'm a Virgo, so I was definitely feeling the effects of the two eclipses that we had in the month of September, one in Pisces and one in Virgo. But now that it's Libra season, I'm feeling a lot of very sensual, sexually charged energy. I believe we have a transit coming up with Mars in Scorpio in October, and I've seen that being talked about a lot as being this very dark feminine era kind of energy. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I wanted to give you guys some life updates. So firstly, I mentioned in I believe the previous episode or the one before it, that we are redoing our bathroom. We're halfway there. All of the tiles put in, toilet, tub, and we have to put in our vanity and our mirror. But I'm telling you, it is gorgeous, and we were able to do this on a budget. The tile that we picked out was actually on sale. However, it literally looks like something that you would find in a hotel somewhere in the Mediterranean. And I step into the bathroom and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in Greece. And my husband is like, good, because he spent his entire vacation time from work doing that with my grandfather, who did tile his whole life. So it feels luxurious over here, and I'm definitely receiving that and taking that in. And then also a couple of weeks ago, I attended a local book event, and it was actually on the river where me and my husband used to live, in one of the apartment buildings on that river. It was called Paperback Picnic. So me and two other authors were there with our books and talking to everyone, mingling, selling our books. And then for everyone who attended, there was a flower crown making workshop. Overall, it was such a fun and beautiful day. The weather honestly couldn't have been any more perfect, so it was just really comfortable and everyone was having fun. So that was definitely a highlight from the past couple of weeks. And in today's episode, this is inspired by the shifts that I've been making in my own personal life, in my relationship to myself, and how that has affected my marriage and the romance within that. And my relationship has always been very affectionate, and there's always something to learn. I feel like this relationship that I have and getting married at such a young age has been like a playground in some ways for learning and experimenting these different archetypes within the feminine, exploring love, exploring sexuality, and I just have this passion for learning that and relaying all of that to you. This conversation is so relevant to the dating and relationship world nowadays. It is relevant to women's relationships with themselves and how they love themselves. And that is the concept of independence, being an independent woman. And what I have observed and also experimented with is that masculine men, true masculine men, are not repelled by an independent woman, a woman who is motivated, a woman who has ambitions. In fact, they find that so attractive. But then there's this other side of the internet that demonizes this idea of an independent woman. They associate it with a woman who is angry towards men, who are rigid, who aren't, playful and happy. And of course, we're all human and we're not going to be happy all the time, but it's just that energy of relaxation and not feeling like there needs to be this constant competition. So there are always different voices that come into this conversation. But I think where we need to start is shifting this word independent to sovereign. Humans, whether you are a man or a woman, are not meant to be completely independent and separated from society and from community. And many young women over the past couple of generations have been encouraged to be an independent woman because in Western culture, at least, we have gained a lot of freedoms and opportunities. There's still a lot more work to do, and in other parts of the world, there is so much healing that needs to occur. But I think it's relatable that as a woman growing up, you're told, make your own money, have your own career, this, that, and the third. And then now a lot of women today are like, I've done that. I've built a life for myself, but I don't want to be independent anymore. I want to be protected and provided for and adored. And that's why I think this word shift can be so impactful, because sovereign doesn't mean separate. It means being rooted to your inner authority. That looks like feeling safe in your body, not approaching situations with an anxious energy or an avoidant energy. There's this sense of ease and trust within your body, and because you have that and because you feel that, you are then able to receive romantically and sexually, and also just in your relationships in general. So I wanted to talk about this because for a while I recognized that I wasn't feeling completely in love with what I was doing. And if you have been listening to these episodes so far, you know the story of me trying to build a business and realizing that wasn't for me, and things just felt stagnant in my life. And that began showing up in my romantic relationship, where sometimes things felt a little bit forced, or we would get into this rut. And then when I changed what I was doing and when I pursued something that actually lit me up and started falling in love with and romanticizing life, my romantic relationship improved greatly. It is that feeling of being anchored into our truth while also having our heart open that is so attractive to men. I see a lot on TikTok videos of like how to get him obsessed with you, how to get him to spoil you and adore you, and whatever you can think of in that space. However, it really comes down to being in love with and obsessed with your own life, because then you'll be able to receive it. If you are going through life on edge, feeling unsafe, feeling like the world is against you, if someone tries to come into your life and give you something different, it's not going to feel right, and you're actually going to want to push it away. You're going to be like, what's the catch here? I'm sure that is such a relatable phrase. I know I've definitely felt that too. So when men say that they find independence attractive, they are referring to the byproduct of our inner work, where we are tuned into our intuition, where our heart is open, and because of that, we are able to receive compliments and higher standards, and engage in conversations that might be difficult from time to time, but we feel safe to have them. When we are in the independent woman archetype where we are trying to do everything on our own, not just romantically, but in all areas of life, or if we are harboring anger and resentment, that is what will push away masculine energy. Because for attraction and love and pleasure to thrive in a relationship, there needs to be polarity. And there's actually a universal law called the Law of Polarity, and we see this in push-pull, left, right, up, down, just these simple realities of our existence that also apply to relationships. Have you ever noticed, like, if you're trying really, really hard to manifest something, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I don't want it anymore, I give up, and then all of a sudden it happens? Or maybe you're working on a creative project and you're feeling a block, and then when you decide to take a break, that idea comes through. It's because of this law. It's because of polarity. There needs to be a dance between these two energies, between extrovert and introvert, between masculine and feminine, between dominance and submission. And by submission, I don't mean subservience. It's different than that. Instead, it is surrendering to safety and having this inner trust in yourself, and also a partner if you are applying it to that scenario. Along with this idea growing up of being an independent woman, or maybe you were told the opposite, maybe you were told, just marry a rich man and that's it, and then you were like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. No matter what you were told growing up, you may have become accustomed to the masculine structure of the world and of the workforce. And then we tend to think that we should apply that to our relationships, where we are trying to make someone fall in love or appreciate us based on what we are doing. However, men specifically don't fall in love with us because we made them lunch or because we cleaned their house. Those are all privileges that come from a more developed relationship when you are doing life together and you are doing daily chores together. Instead, they fall in love with our presence, our passion, our heart, our play. And that is what they mean by independence or by ambition. Not that we are angry at them or resentful towards men or trying to compete with them, but because we have followed our own heart and our own intuition. Men are so enchanted by our intuition. They also have intuition, but it's not the same as ours. Ours is deeply connected to our pleasure and to our turn on. Then when we bring that energy into a relationship, we get the results that we want, because it also changes our behavior. Instead of telling a man all the things that he is doing wrong, we are able to point out the things that he is doing right and what we want reinforced. And that doesn't mean sugarcoating problems when they come up, but we move out of this accusatory energy and into a more heart-led space. Because at the end of the day, what we want is to be loved, to feel accepted, to feel nurtured. I have seen this so often in personal relationships that I've been around, where the woman will think that if she pushes the man, it will make him change and it will make him do something different. It will make him be different towards her. But that actually does the opposite to masculine energy. for masculine energy to rise up and to hold us, we actually need to be able to receive it. So when we are in our sovereignty, we recognize the strength and power and potential in the other person, not just the things that we want them to change, but we recognize how we are also a match to receiving all sides of them. The sovereign, independent woman recognizes that it is not her anger or her competitiveness that brings success, but it is her love that brings her there, that brings the result that she wants, that makes her feel magnetic in life. It is very valid to point out that there is a lot of healing that needs to occur on both sides between the relationships with men and women, because a lot of women do have negative experiences with men, and we hold on to those. We hold on to them in our mind and our body, and it can feel impossible to open our heart. So we go into that independent woman space where we're doing it all on our own. But are we truly independent? Are we truly sovereign if we don't even feel held by our own body? If we are waking up anxious, if we are comparing ourselves to other people, if we are believing that all we need to do is hustle and grind constantly in order to get what we want, because that pulls us away from our feminine energy. Feminine energy is incredibly powerful because it reflects and highlights what needs to heal, what needs to be revealed. The feminine is playful and sensual and intuitive and creative, but she is also the mirror to the shadows. So when men are turned on by our ambition and by our motivation and by our independence, what they are pointing out to us is that they are appreciative and enchanted by the way we follow our heart, by the way we follow our intuition, by the way we follow our passion. Because passion is, in my opinion, just another word for turn on. Not just sexual turn on, but turn on in all areas of life, following what is inspiring, following what we feel called to serve and give our time and attention to, because that also tells him that he needs to be mindful of our time and our energy, and he then values our time and our energy because we are pouring our attention to what is serving and nurturing us. And he sees and recognizes that that is the energy that we will bring into the relationship. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. If this resonated, be sure to leave a 5-star review, and I will see you in the next episode.